folks, June 8th here, Rotoball Patch Compound. This is an important video. I made one about 5 days ago, but felt compelled to make another. And I want to talk about problems that you're going to start seeing in the patch if you're not already seeing them yet. Problems I see every year, problems maybe I don't see every year, how to address them, potentially mitigate them, stop them before they even happen. And when you do find them, how to fix them, hopefully, and get to that finish line. We'll do a general patch overlook too. Why not? You got pumpkins, you got plans to show them off, right? But this is a good one. This is an important one. Hang tight. Hopefully you'll learn some things. Maybe you'll see some things. Maybe teach me some things. I'll take whatever I can get, as should you. As usual, we're going to start at the stop sign patch, folks. Real quick overview of the plants. We've got the Razzo field pumpkin, 1229.7 rotoball, and the Veil Melon, 268.7, something like that. It's the one he brought to West Virginia. That's what I need to know. He knows the number. It's really good fruit, really good plant. But we're not talking about, oh, look how pretty my plants are. We're going to talk about maintenance. So when I start my morning, first thing I do is get up and walk outside, check out my plants. See if they made it through the night. Of course, my fences are always on. I walk out here, one of the first things to do, midnight's following me around in the morning too. So I look at my stump. I'll come up here, I'll check out my stump, and I'll look at my vines to see if I see any wilting on the leaves, any funny business. And I'm just walking around, trying to sneak through the canopy and ducking around. Spend a lot of time just looking at the plant itself. If anything looks different, especially on a tight plant like this, because you can't get out in there, you know? That's the difference between a 150 and maybe your normal competition plants that are huge. Only thing I can do is sneak up close, kind of bend leaves back, and get a side view. And yeah, I'm real happy. I don't see any, what I'm looking for. So what are you looking for, Doc? Well, on the main vine particularly, I'm looking at the nodes. Every node that has secondary shooting off. I'm making sure that the junction is still good. There's no weeping, oozing, any of that nonsense. And the general vines themselves, just making sure that everybody looks good and healthy and green. No brown, no weirdness, things that are abnormal. All right, check that box off. Woo! Next up on the list, check out the pumpkin and everything that's associated with it. Come in here and look at my pounds. 209, by the way, today with a sheet. Sheet's got at least weigh 9 pounds, right? Check the fruit. Lift the sheet. Check the blossom. How's my blossom look? She's good. No cracks, splits, none of that nonsense. Step around to the back side. Check my stem. My main vine running in. Feel for slack. Just everywhere. Checking thing. No ooze, spots, cracks, any of that nonsense that wasn't there 24 hours, 12 hours ago. Fan's running. It's not beating on the fruit. We still have a little bit of clearance. Vines aren't touching. That's another check. So the question is like, well, how quick can things happen? I mean, you're checking every 12 hours. You're not going to see any differences. I mean, you check around this plant. So you see these leaves? We're missing part of these leaves. And these ones are pushed back. And they were flopped over. Oh, let's have as much space and foliage coverage as we can. Oh, we need it to grow this big fruit. Yeah, that's right. But even with the sheet on, this stinky old leaf right here is pinned back now, leaning against my fruit, beating the hind end off of it because the fan's blowing on it all day. Is that a death sentence? Absolutely not. Is it an ugly scar on an otherwise pretty good looking fruit? It sure is. Will I live with it? I'm gonna have to. All right, so next up, I look at my space. I think, okay, this is how much space I have. I'm training vines pretty aggressively. Are they still holding their training? Are they trying to run outside of the box? Matter of fact, this one this morning, it had flopped back this way. It's like, I don't wanna make that turn. So I had to flop it back before I went to work. How's my weed pressure? Weed pressure still looks real good in here. It's low. All right, that's it for the 150. Let's look at the melon. 150 plant checked off. Now I'm standing on a new board. Peer over at my melon stump. Do I see any ooze or nonsense going on there? Is it still free and clear? What's the weed pressure look around that fan? It's not bad. Getting plenty of airflow. Airflow's everything on a melon stump. You want to keep it to where it gets good sunshine, it's not covered, and the fan runs on it. Keep it cool, keep it from exploding, especially if it's grafted. This girl's not grafted. This is a natural stump. I think it's a little bit more resistant to blowing up, but a lot less resistant to disease. Everything checks out. A transition to the rest of the plant. So just like pumpkins, I'm looking for wilt, dark areas, ooze, anything that just not what you want to see. Atypical behavior and growth. Things look good. I think we're filling in actually, and it's a nice looking plant. Is it encroaching too much on my 150? This is a preference for me. This may not fit everybody, but it looks like it's maintained at the moment. I'm keeping a pretty good border. That way, if these leaves want to lay over, they're not going to lay over and stink up my watermelon too much. Or even worse, my watermelon sneak underneath my daggone pumpkin plant. That's the last thing I want. On the other side of the structure, looks good. We're filling in nicely, and plant looks healthy. No abnormalities or concerns. All right, on to the melon fruit. I know what to expect on this fruit size-wise. Is she visually bigger? Yes, she's visually bigger. How's the vine look? It looks good. The vine around it, the vine after it, nice and healthy. Starting to get some secondary production where I've clipped off that tip. So that's good, we're still pushing fluid. The vine leading into it, propped up, hasn't moved, no goofy spots or nonsense. That's what I like to see. Get down low, check around the melon. Do I see anything underneath that melon that doesn't belong? Whether it be a piece of gravel or something that's hopped up in there, a bug, anything like that. I can't see this side real well way on the back because it's on the opposite side, so I'll actually go outside of the fence and I'll peer in and look the best I can. I like what I see. Time to move on. Alrighty folks, that's your main checks and looky-loos for evaluating plant of health and growth everyday checks. Now I want to talk about being proactive on things. So this plant is terminated, very back half, right? And we're growing on this front half still. We still got this real estate to fill in. I've got my bamboo sitting up here waiting to train vines. So I'm gonna need them. The scale itself, if you look real close, there's a pulling board. I've installed pulling boards. This fruit will need tugged. Matter of fact, it's still small enough, a couple 100 pounds, I can tug it myself. And I've already tugged it just a little bit. And that's to keep that pressure off that main vine. Got a T-post sunk. Oh, look at that handsome fella with the phone. Wave high, handsome fella. Got a T-post sunk right there. That's to hook the set of come-alongs to this tugging board once this fruit gets to be 1,400 pounds. So everything's planned, you know. You plan for the best and you plan for the worst and hope for the best. I don't know. You get the idea. Know where you're going and how to get there, and have the roadmap and all the plans ready to rock and roll. And worst case scenario, that you come out here, she split. Well, you drove a T-post you probably could have got away with not driving, or you could have not put a board in, you know. But if you have the time or can find the time to be proactive, it's going to save you a lot of headache. Razzo plant is starting to move along. Got some areas buried. Yeah, I'm going to bury that main. I mean, I'm burying it completely. And I'm pulling off secondaries. This is going to be a straight shot plant. Why am I doing a straight shot? Why am I not letting secondaries? My 150 is very, very important to me. And putting pressure from this plant onto that plant is totally not worth it. So probably not going to get a big girl off of this. Don't really care. This is fun to grow. That right there is important to grow. All right, the main patch. Starting to get a little bit of sunset now here, which is nice. Maybe it'll cool off a little bit. I check this after I check my 150 plant. In the mornings, one of the most important things I do is I look at my soil. I have soil moisture probes in the ground, a couple areas underneath buckets out there, deep down in the soil, and I monitor that with Bluetooth. However, I like to look at the actual under canopy. And morning time and evening time are the best. Morning time, because if there's any moisture, it'll permeate back up to the surface and show you. Evening time, show you what's there after the sun's baked everything. If you hand water like I do, you can say, hey, where am I missing? Or hey, which part of the plant seems to be draining quicker? That's probably it, because I feel like I don't miss. So I just do a general check. And I look at my vines too. Good example. Check out this vine right here. Bit of spotting up there. That's the start of like a Pytherium, whatever that is. It's just an unintentional, what in the heck's going on, brown rot stuff. So I see that. So I spray off all these girls back here by next watering. I've got a little bit of spot of that here and there and everywhere. Check out the rest of the plant. It's not so bad. It's really localized to this one little area. And maybe a couple little spots right here. But unburying them, so to speak, and spraying them off alerted me to one area. So you check other areas and there you are. You saved the plant, or at least saved a couple secondaries. Oh yeah, do these need to be treated? Oh, Doc, yeah, congratulations, you found them. Sometimes they do, but most of the time, from my experience, they don't. And I don't really treat secondaries. Secondaries, I just get rid of if they're yucky. Like this one's probably my worst one, if I can sneak in there. Right there's the worst one. That's the one I feel daily with my hand to see if there's any squish or yuck. If I get rid of that, I'm gonna lose 2 or 3 nodes. And that's it. 2 or 3 leaves, 2 or 3 nodes, not the end of the world. Why is it even still on there? Well, it's my canary in the coal mine for the rest of these spots back here. And so far it checks out. And the entire time I'm looking up and checking out leaves as well, looking for pests. Do I see any squash bugs, squash vine borers, or squash vine, oh, cucumber beetles. Oh yeah, I haven't seen those for a long time. You forget about them when you don't see them for a while, huh? Well, I haven't seen any squash vine borers, but they're ingrained in my memory, so I'll never forget about those. But squash bugs are a little rough on me this year, so every day I'm picking off maybe 1 or 2 adults and getting rid of them, an old-fashioned way, old squishity squish. I have a few other areas, such as that broke. So this was a very bloated area with nitrogen, and you pin it down way out here, right? And then what happens? Back there breaks, so you end up cleaving that off there at the cut and pinning it down there. I left that cut. I wanted to see how that was going to heal naturally on its own. Real happy with the way it healed. But it's an area that I will continue to look at for the rest of the season. How are my roots? Do I see any roots popping up through the soil? Yeah, some areas I do. Oh boy. Everybody likes to show off their roots online. Look at that. Oh boy, the roots. And that is exciting. But your roots do that for one reason. It's because they're drowned and they're trying to get air. These roots need moisture just as much as they need atmospheric air to breathe and do respiration. That's how this plant grows. So if they're popping through the surface, it's not because, boy, they're crazy aggressive. It's because you're probably a little bit wetter in some areas than you potentially could be or should be. Because I most certainly don't have it here. And that's not dry as a bone. We're moist down a little bit lower, but we're not moist up top, causing those roots to pop. Next item on the agenda, stumps and veins. Just like we did before, we started with stumps and veins on the small plant because it's easy to look at. Well, easy enough. So bend down, look at my stump. Is there any ooze, yucks, cracks, splits, rot? And I check at this side, and I'll walk around and I'll check the other side. I'll visually grab onto it with my hand. Am I afraid to walk on this soil? No, I don't like it, but it's a necessary evil. See that foot? Necessary evil. I'll put my hand and I feel around. I don't do this in the morning. I want this to dry out during the day, and I never water this area. It's one thing people do is they water their mains. You water this and you make it wet, you're gonna rot out. This is the lifeline to that fruit right there, right? All these secondaries feeding in, they're great. Boy, they help the system. But we chop one of these off, that old girl right there is still going to continue to grow. And when I walk this main in the evening, what I'm looking at, what I call the knuckles, the nodes. And I want to see no rot or bubbling. This time of year, you should be pretty much unburied on this main if you buried it in the first place. I feel around to check it out. If they get yucky, they'll make a spot. And just about every year, I'll have some spots on this main that I have to treat. And without intervention, they're gonna take a plant down, take a fruit with it. So one of my questions to other growers has been about these fans that are on stems, stumps, blossoms. When do you turn them off? Do you turn them off at night? Because it's colder at night. You know, you don't need that cooling effect. It's not about the cooling effect, it's about the drying effect. Feel free to turn that girl off at day 70 if you want to rot out a stump, especially if it's August. That needs to stay on 24/7 until that fruit right there goes to the scale. The 1965.5 Rotoball. Check out that vine. Turn off that fan. See what the stump looks like. Ah, she's good and healthy. We'll walk around and put hands on her. We'll walk down that fabric again. Being careful not to break anything, move things out of the way. Trying to follow the same footsteps you follow every time you do this. In the meantime, you're in the center of your plant. Doesn't hurt to stop and look around. See anything you don't like? How do your leaves look besides old and tired from the hailstorm? Well, that foliage out there is a lot better. This foliage is going to give out on me pretty quick, and I know that. And I'm trying to be conscious about that and think, okay, we got to push a little bit bigger plant if we're going to try to carry this girl into September and October. They look good and healthy. Don't see any wilting or any of that nonsense. The main looks good. Looks good, looks good. However, oh boy, did a check about 5 or 6 days ago, 4 days ago. I found a spot. Told you I get these every year. And there's a good example. Now this one right here is stable at the moment. It's hard, it looks brown, but there's no oog. I didn't take any photos, which I should have, shame on me, whenever she first appeared. It shows up, and it almost looks like a boogery, gooey mass right on top of the node there. And you'll touch it, pull off it, smell it. Actually, put it up your nose and smell it. What does it smell like? Does it smell like rot? You know what pumpkin rot smells like if you've been growing for a while. Is it good, clean, and clear? How much is it? How big is the area? Take your finger, scrape away some of it, because you're coming back instantly anyway. You're not going to hurt anything. Mine wasn't too bad. Had a little bit of off smell, which I'm not a big fan of, but it wasn't huge. So I came back and I scraped it. And I used a green handled knife. I'll show you a picture of my knife and my hardware here in a little bit and talk about what I do with them and how I use them. And scraped it down to where there was no brown. That was the infected tissue. I'm like, but Doc, I still see brown. Yeah, you see brown now, but that is dried up tissue. That is no infection whatsoever. Ran some alcohol over it, disinfected the best I could, threw a fan. 24 hours later, I still didn't like it. It looked rough. Got a can fan, a little bit stronger air, and I could direct it right on it. And if you look in the area, that used to have a leaf. Took the leaf off. Let that direct sunshine hit it. Nothing's going to dry you out quicker than sunshine and a good can fan. And now she's hard as a rock, and I think she's going to be fine. Check back in a week or two to see what she looks like then. We'll have a follow-up on this one. Get them every year. So the table of tools. Got the paintbrush. This is for painting daconil. And I don't paint it on wounds that are not healed. I'll paint on areas that are healed or areas that could be of concern. I don't like to paint daconil on things that are actively diseased and cover them up because you can't see the progression of that disease. Ye old green handled knife, which looks like it's been in a shank fight, is perfect for scraping out and debriding areas of concern. I'll wipe it down with alcohol. That's good enough. Everything else is getting alcohol. But I like it because it's not sharp. Not sharp on any side, but it's perfect for just scraping and pulling some yuck away. And just a good knife that you can change out blades on. Every so often, it starts looking a little bit grungy. Or if you cut through something that's a little bit questionable, change out that blade. Get yourself a fresh blade. That's it. Oh, the bobby pin. Yeah, that's just my daughter's. How fortuitous. I'm out here talking about this, and I already mentioned not seeing one of these little guys in quite some time. So be vigilant, be watching what's available, what's going on in your patch. And that one flew away, so I'm doomed. Oh, I think I got him. Oh, still alive enough, I could probably mail that out tomorrow to Bayou's patch. So unless you haven't been paying attention or looking at my foliage, you can tell I run a pile of nitrogen. You don't get leaves looking like that and as gnarly as down there on the 2365 unless you're pushing nitrogen. You push a lot of nitrogen, things start to split. See that split? There's a hole into that leaf. What do you think holes do? They collect water. It's perfectly fine, but you better keep a good eye on that node. Matter of fact, next time I water, I'll probably uncover it with the water just to make sure everything's good and sound underneath of there. So at the growing end of the 1965, I'm out here checking. What do I look for? How's my moisture? We're good underneath that canopy. A little dry beyond the canopy. We wanting some roots here real soon, so this will be an area that gets a little special attention with water this evening. Right there, it's not bad. It grows downhill, so this does leach, and I understand that. So we might be a little bit more moist under here than what I believe, but with the heat that's coming and the heat that I've been having, we're gonna put down the water. How's the growing tips? Just terminated this one yesterday. Looks good, it's peeling up, and I'll probably cut it back and actually pin her down and bury it at some point. Growing tips look really good. I buried these Sunday, like I said, and normally I would bury that, and I'd probably even bury that, so we're really putting on the inches. How do they look height-wise? They're cobering up a little bit, and that's probably due to that nitrogen, and that's okay. I like what I see on my side vines. The direct first secondary off. Oh, she's a little bit slow. Even with the nitrogen and potassium I'm pushing, fruit's just got a heavy sink that she can't keep up. That's taken way too much from all that, and that's okay. We're worried about growing this. This right here just helps us get to the finish line. I look at the scale head. Did I add pounds? Yeah, sure did. I had, let's see, 39 yesterday. Now I've got 69. That's what I'll tell myself. I take off the sheet. Okay, sheets off the fruit. First up, how's that blossom look? She looks great. I painted her probably about dap 11 or 12 with some daconil, full strength daconil, just on the pollinating surfaces. The actual nub itself, it gets nothing. This nub is still firm. Do I tweak on it? No, I don't need to tweak on it. I just look at it visually. Make sure there's no splits, cracks, checking. Just check the general fruit. Do I see any blemishes on the fruit that weren't there yesterday or 12 hours ago? That's the next check as I walk around. Fruit looks pretty good. Nothing crazy. Get up on the scale, check our stem. Does the stem itself look good? Yeah, stem's just as healthy, no changes there. Secondary coming off in main, do they have play? Is there adequate distance between them? Currently, yes. Will I have to do something soon? Probably so. The main vine, she comes in nice. Do we have any kinks forming in it? You look real close, real close. Oh, there is a little bit of a kink that wants to start there. We're going to do something about that kink. So this old girl will probably be moved tomorrow a little bit, about an inch or so. And check that main vine looking good. And if you already have a moving board apparatus set up, it's just as simple as going to your T-post out there, conveniently located, hooking up the come-alongs and tugging her. Takes 10 or 15 minutes start to finish. And it's really simple and easy, but it's waiting. You just got to do it. The 2365. How my growing tips looking? Got 3 good strong ones there. This one right here is starting to flower out on me. Hasn't done much. Closing the space. This one, go back in there, maybe term her out. She's not doing anything, get rid of her. The other side, got 2 strong secondaries. They look all right. The 2 closest to the fruit, the one real close to the fruit, really flowered out. Still getting at least a little bit off this girl, and I'm hopeful. We'll see as this fruit starts to slow down if these will do anything right here. But as for now, let these girls trace out, try to just fill up space. Like growing tips. If this plant is growing, it's not dying. That's the idea. And these are always a bellwether of nutrients. You can look at these leaves and go, how's my nitrogen? It's pegged. I'm good to go. How's my magnesium? Maybe a little bit touch more, Doc. Not horrible, but you could probably use some. The fruit itself, we'll look at the scale. How's the scale? Oh boy, we're up to 94 pounds. That's at least 5 pounds better than yesterday, so she's moving in the right direction. Pounds don't matter, it's just pace. Is my pace where it needs to be, in all seriousness? And yes, the pace is where it needs to be. Is it going up? Yes. Is it staying the same? Yes. How's the weather affecting it? So that's what I want to look at when I look at my scale or my tape. I mean, if you're doing an OTT with a tape every 3 days or 5 days, you can kind of know how you're pacing. And that's important because you'll know if things are working in your favor or against you. Check the fruit body, make sure there's nothing new or goofy. Look at old stuff. Lord knows where that even came from. But there's an old spot, and it's okay. It healed up nicely because the fruit's young, it can handle it. Check out the vines. Vines look good. See if there's any creepy crawlies like this guy. He's probably not gonna hurt anything. He's gotta go though. It's an inchworm measuring my fruit. They always say, inchworm's measuring you for new clothes. Oh boy, I don't need any new clothes. Out of there, inchworm. All right, I got him safely. Stem. Good, clear around. Vines coming in, nice and loose. Do we have any bends? Check out those bends. I've moved this fruit so many times. She'll be moved again tomorrow. Isn't that ridiculous? It's just the way it goes. And you think, was there any coming back from that? If you let it get real bad, no. If it bends a little bit and you can straighten it back out, perfectly fine. Just don't let it get silly on you. What I like to see as my plant ages and the stem gets bigger, it'll start pushing this main vine down. And I've actually, from my other fruit, let's see, the 1965 and the 2144 and a half, it ended up having that stem almost shooting straight down. So I'm hoping for a little bit of growth up here on the stem itself to do that. Guys, I'm calling that a patch overview for today. I think I hit the high points of what I like to do, what I like to look for, whether it be pests, rot, overall plant health, leaf, vine, fruit, stems, blossoms, stumps, all that stuff gets checked daily, twice a day for optimal health. And you keep an eye on it. And if you run into problems, you run into them on a 12-hour cycle or even a 24-hour cycle, you're going to save yourself a lot of headache and potentially a lost fruit. Makes sense? Does to me. All right, to the porch pumpkin, I'm just showing the general plant. I'm not going to talk about what I do here. It's pretty much the same as the other girls you've seen. Just make sure my fruit's happy and healthy and the plant's decent. Nothing goofy's going on. And she's doing all right. She's a little slow, but she's a porch pumpkin. Real happy there. We're going to fill in this area right through here, and that's it. My tomatoes, oh mercy. Real happy with those tomatoes. This gal, what you've seen in the past, if we can get to it, we're not gonna kill ourselves to do it because, yeah, happy with that girl. That's gonna be a nice 5 or 6 pounder. The other rotoball plant, nice little tomato there. Should do work. Getting a little bit more sun than what I care for, but that's all right. It's tomato, it'll be fine. The Ramie, check out this nonsense. Isn't that cool? Oh boy. I don't know what Ethan sent me. I think he sent me a pancake of awesomeness. Can't wait to grow that girl out and see if she'll take some maple syrup. Well, I hope you made it the whole way through that video. That's a long one, but it's an important one. And July into August is the time of year. If you're gonna start losing things, this is it. It's smooth sailing when it's early. These plants are very fresh, young, healthy. They can handle a lot. They're very self-healing. We get this time of year, like I said, into August, they don't heal so easy. They need a little help. Maybe you gotta address some things. Maybe you gotta be a little bit more proactive. And if you know what to look for, maybe your reaction time will be quicker and you're gonna save your bacon. See you at the scales, guys. Thanks for watching. Doc out.